Hallihallo meine lieben Freunde und willkommen zu einem neuen Part von diesem wunderschönen Spiel. So. Wir machen weiter, wo wir aufgehört haben. Ein blinktes Rot. Was da noch ist. Da ist das Haus, wo wir voriges Mal drinnen waren. Und wir gehen rauf, weil sonst nirgendwo irgendeine andere Möglichkeit ist.
And when you look at the house, that history of imagination and stubbornness and madness, any of it seems possible. I think we've been surrounded by death for so long, we've just gotten used to it. What kind of family finishes building a cemetery before starting the house? It's embarrassing for me to admit this, but the pet cemetery may be more uncomfortable than the human one.
Friedhof.
3 of the gerbils are mine, and 2 had been my fault.
Die haben sehr viele Tiere gehabt. Schatzi. 2000. Christopher. Bob. Oliver. Leider sieht man nicht überall, welche Tiere das waren. Okay, da sieht man, dass ein Hund war, dann eine Katze, Kaninchen, Fisch, noch eine Katze, noch ein Hund, aber die anderen weiß man nicht, was das war. Türker. Duka.
Sven built the house, but it was Edie who designed the cemetery.
Und jetzt sind die ersten Menschen auf dem Friedhof begraben worden. Barbara haben wir auch schon die Geschichte gesehen. Sie ist sogar gestorben an dem Tag, wo sie Geburtstag hatte. Und Walter schon. Walter Marscher. Können wir ein bisschen anschauen. Und schauen, wen wir noch miterlebt haben. Als wir als Edith. Also Walter haben wir miterlebt. Aber wahrscheinlich nicht. Da war ja im Bunker drinnen. Weiß ich gar nicht. Edie. Kennt man noch nicht. Aber haben wir auch schon miterlebt. Sie ist fast 100 geworden. Respekt. Sven. Also ich kann. Der letzte Part ist eine Woche her. Ich weiß auch nicht, was wir alles erlebt haben. Sven wissen wir auch noch nichts. Junge, haben wir nicht miterlebt. Ihn auch nicht. Kelvin. Also das war der, was fliegen wollte. Das ist die Molly. Haben wir gekannt. Genau 10 Jahre. Und 2 Tage. Wenn wir genau sind.
I'm sure Odin's monument had been Edie's idea. My mom was always trying to move on, but for Edie, the past never went away.
Das ist Odin seine Statue. Und von den Sven und Edie. Glaube ich. Oder? Ja, müsste es sein.
She could see it poking out of the water at low tide.
Können wir sogar durchschauen.
Edie said she dreamed about the old house every night.
Okay. Jetzt wissen wir wenigstens, was da blinkt.
Edie's side was always easier for me to understand. But the older I get, the more I can see where my mom was coming from. Her dad had been pretty strict, but it wasn't enough to save her brothers. She was just trying to do better.
Die haben wir alle nicht miterlebt. Da ist fast 2 geworden. Ja.
She lost 2 of her brothers, just like I did. I get why she tried so hard to protect us. We never found Milton's body, so my mom insisted we were putting up a monument, not a tombstone.
Achso, das sind ihre Brüder, stimmt. Oder Levis, keine Ahnung, wie man den ausspricht. Und Milton sind ihre Brüder. Keine Ahnung, wie der mit ihr verwandt ist, aber irgendwie schon.
There's so many things I wish I could ask my mom now. Part of me thinks this is what she wanted all along. For me to come back someday and find everything out for myself.
Jetzt gehen wir mal hoch.
But looking back on it now, If she told me there was going to be so much climbing, I never would have come when I was 22 weeks pregnant.
Oh, das war riskant. Riskant.
I never met Grandpa Sam, but I think he and my mom had a lot in common.
Probleme mit FPS.
They were both pretty intense.
Heftig.
Sam spent his life shooting photos, but Mom said he got nervous being in front of the camera. I guess we're all afraid of something.
Das Story-Segment finde ich auch cool.
Dawn, I promise, you'll never forget this weekend.
Yes, sir.
These memories are gonna last a lifetime.
Hmm? What? Am I gonna have to shoot anything?
It's a hunting trip, Dawn. Shooting is strongly encouraged. Perfect.
It's gonna rain the whole weekend, isn't it?
Da müssen wir einfach sie fotografieren. Also, ich kenne die ganzen
I will
Spots
never
schon.
forget this weekend, Dad.
That's the spirit. Okay, got it.
I'm gonna take some pictures, okay?
Just be careful. That camera's older than you are.
Aw.
Definitely should not have drunk all that coffee.
You're right, Dad. It's starting to clear up. Still freezing, though.
Hey!
That's a keeper.
I'm just saying, I'm not always gonna be here, Dawn. You'll need to remember this stuff, if you want to survive.
I'll be fine, Dad.
You know who else thought he was gonna be fine?
Some guy who died.
Dawn, I'm being serious.
I know, Dad. You're always serious. Doesn't being out here make you want to chill out?
Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't been out here in 20 years.
Weil das Spiel ist wirklich
Last
schön.
time I was with my brother Calvin. Man, that was a great trip.
Einfach mal alles
Your grandpa Sven
fotografieren.
taught us how to fish, how to build a fire. We found an old logging trail. There were
Weil
deer
das
everywhere.
Bullshit ist.
Dad!
Good eyes, Dawn. Before you take the shot, let me get a picture of you.
I'm over here, Dad. Dad, I...
Just breathe. Turn off your imagination. Let me get behind you.
Do I have to do this?
Dawn. Great shot, Dawn! I'm proud of you, Dawn. Always remember that,
Jetzt steuere
okay?
ich gerade ihn. Das ist echt schwach von der Perspektive aus. Kraft.
Dad, it's twitching. I think
That's
it's
totally
some-
normal, Dawn. Just focus on the camera. Try not to think about...
Dad!
Of all these stories, that's the one I wish most that my mom had told me.
Ist auch eine coole Geschichte. Was soll ich jetzt machen müssen?
Instead of hiding from death,
Ja.
Sam seemed to go out of his way to meet it.
Welche Todes machen? Warte. Aha. Interessant. Achso, da.
After Sam died, my mom and Edie got really close. They'd both lost a lot.
Jetzt sind wir bei den Geschwistern von von der Edith, ihrer Mutter. Das ist George, was nur 2 Jahre überlebt
Kay.
hat.
Do you remember the way Gregory used to laugh when he thought he was alone? Like something funny was happening, but only he could see it. I think he saw things the rest of us don't.
Ui, Froschi. Froschi bewegt sich selbst.
Bend over, Gregory. It's time to... Hold on, sweetie. Hello? Sam, I told you I don't want to talk right now.
I wonder what he saw.
Blubberblasen.
What his world was
Christian.
like.
Hey, Erfolg. Also ich hab gerade eine Trophäe erhalten. Blablabla.
He reminded me so much of Calvin. Lost in his imagination. Whatever it was he saw. It sure made him happy.
Bye.
I know how silly it sounds.
Yay, was auch immer das ist.
That I worried about a baby being too happy.
Also das ist so.
I could
Blubberblasen.
feel him slipping away.
Sorry about that, Gregory.
I know you did everything you could.
Hey. Das ist
Maybe if
gemein.
I hadn't called that night. I wish he could have told us. about the world he saw.
Wasser ist gut.
Hey, there's so much I don't understand. About Gregory. About everything. But I know what happened wasn't your fault. I'm sure he's happy. And he'd want you to be happy too. Good luck, Kay. Love, Sam.
Das saugt Mieser.
I can't imagine my mom ever writing poetry, and yet...
Die Geschichte ist auch ganz cool.
A poem for Gus, who always said the wedding was a bad idea. Our father never hit us kids, at least not very hard, before the day my brother said with teenage disregard that he'd be dead before he'd see a wedding in our yard. My father made him come, of course, but Gus stood far apart, just flew his kite and bottled up the storm inside his heart. I tried to talk him out of it, but though he'd never met her, we don't need a stepmom were the words that I
now
remember.
pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride.
Yay. Wohin? Was da?
When the time for photos came, Dad ordered him to come here. But Gus declined, and as a sign held up his middle finger.
Okay. Jetzt gemein.
The wind picked up, and panicked geese appeared and quickly went. But all the humans did that day was go inside the tent. The rain came down in buckets then, but no one seemed afraid that nature might destroy the tent our dad had crudely made. The thunder sounded much too close and full of angry power, but all my father said to this was, "Make the music louder."
Oh.
I wish that I could truly say I thought about you on that day. Out there on the beach alone, just you, the wind, the sea and foam. But I didn't, until we found you.
Oh. Das Zelt schlägt zurück.
She never talked about him, but Mom told me once if I was a boy, they were going to name me Gus.
Ist gespeichert. sollte irgendwas wissen, okay. So.
My mom moved up to the loft after her brothers died. At the time, it was as far away as she could get. She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay.
Steht das halt? Okay. Das erkennt man damit gut. Dann gehen wir mal raus.
My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English. Louis was born a year later. When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go. I'm sure Edie was happy to have her back. And to see kids in the house again. The house had to get a little bigger, but Edie was used to that. And for a while, things were good. Almost normal, but it didn't last.
Das war mein Platz. Das war Louis' Platz. Edith Finch. Kann man nichts lesen. Leider. Great job. Das war wahrscheinlich ein Meerschweinchen. Eigentlich eine ganz nette Klasse. Bisschen klein. Aber halt vorne nur zwei.
The beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle.
So ein kleiner Künstler.
Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush.
Also. Warte.
I was 4 when Milton disappeared.
Aber wir wissen nicht, wie er gestorben ist.
Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors.
Komm noch mal hoch. Ich will das probieren. Okay, geht nicht.
Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out.
Da hinten ist nichts, das habe ich schon einmal, mich einmal umgeschaut. Also, da können wir ja noch.
After Milton disappeared, the only thing he left behind was a room full of paintings. Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Louis blamed himself. After he graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room, until Mom got him a job at the cannery. Everyone always told me to stay out of Louis's room, except Louis.
Da ist nicht weiter. Ich glaube, wir könnten das in einer Stunde schaffen, dass wir das durchkriegen. Obwohl der Sequenz ist sehr, sehr lange.
Louis's room smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Louis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Louis first noticed the monotony of his daily life. He kept working at the cannery. But he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to wander. I asked him to describe it.
Ist echt schade. Das sind die Fische.
He said he started small,
So Köpfen
imagining a
wegzulegen
labyrinth.
und diesen scheiß König zu steuern.
He'd feel his way about. Then something moved. Bats. And toads. And things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head. But he took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more.
Oh.
I worried about him then. Daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss. But he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused. Like a whole new Lewis. So I let him go on. I even encouraged him. It seemed very promising at first. He told me he'd made a new friend. On the edge of a city he named Lewis Topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick.
Yay.
Then he made musicians. And songs for them to play. He talked about starting a band. And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger. He no longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination. So he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor. And he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him. He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis.
Louis. Ouch.
He started drifting away from our reality. Minneapolis. Until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Lewis kept sailing on.
Muss weiter erobern. Noch hier meine Arbeit.
In Lewisburg, he heard rumors of a handsome queen.
Königin.
The Queen was on her own quest for... sinister serpents.
Oops.
He followed the sound of her... silver harp.
Muck die Harfe mehr.
His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon. Even then, his logic remained sound. He knew the world was all in his imagination.
Verpisst euch.
But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king. For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Lewis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him.
Ja, Christi.
He began to forget the world we know. I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker. He began to despise the man with a royal contempt.
Da ist Lewis.
I still thought I could save him.
Okay.
Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions.
Entschuldigung. A little bit.
Including the wise Calico who'd insisted on advising him.
Riesenkatze. Große Katze. So, Molly. Warte. Louis? Das sollten sie eigentlich nicht kennen.
His queen waited, holding his crown.
Servus.
There was only one thing left to do.
Erklär's euch alle. Schön.
Bend down his head. rest I think we know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
Ja, auf so einen Billo-Trick kann man reinfallen. So. Komm raus, sie.
On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie.
War denn die Firma? Die Thunfischfirma?
I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder. I wish we'd stayed. But I understand why we left. My mom ended up leaving everything behind. What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner. But it had to end one way or another. All that's left now is to tell you about that last night.
Jetzt schreiben wir unsere
That
eigene
whole last
Geschichte.
day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
"To our final night together, and all our final nights apart."
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
the power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance. Or that Edie had a key to it.
That thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning, okay?
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life. But I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way.
Einfach geradeaus.
I got turned around.
Am Felsen entlang.
For a while, I wandered. I started seeing things.
Ein Hirsch.
Things I'd forgotten had ever existed. But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it. Let go! I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car. I never saw Great-Grandma Edie again. The next morning, the van came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot. We both tried to make the best of it. A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it. But she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is.
Ich weiß, was passieren wird.
This journal was supposed to be for you.
Ich will nicht, dass es passiert. Nicht weiter. Nein. Okay, so.
But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you and tell you all these stories myself. I guess if you're reading this now. Things didn't work out that way. This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
Dort. So, jetzt kommen die Credits. Also wir haben das Spiel durch. Bin kurz vorm Heulen. Yay, ein Let's Play, was ich endlich einmal durchgezogen habe. Was 2 Parts geht. Hust, hust. Kann's nicht oft genug sagen. Es ist ein echt schönes Spiel. Und auch so detailreich, wie mal aber die Credits Sicht. Also mir hat es sehr Spaß gemacht, auch wenn es extrem storylastig war. Wir sind wirklich fast die Tränen gekommen. Was war nicht warum? Finde ich traurig. Also, es war echt ein kurzes Let's Play, aber schön. Wirklich schön. Lassen wir die Credits noch ein bisschen laufen. Jetzt haben wir auch alles. Wir haben das Spiel durch. Und es ist echt schön. Da können wir noch mal sehen. Ups. Da können wir noch mal sehen, wie lange alle gelebt haben. Und das finde ich auch richtig cool. So. Die einzelnen Geschichten, wie sie das gemacht haben. Vor allem alle Geschichten waren anders. Nicht, also man hat immer irgendwas anderes gehabt. Sehr abwechslungsreich. Und alles sehr gut gestaltet. Auch das leere Haus. Warum auch immer mit so viel Büchern? Verstehe ich nicht. Die beste Story fand ich gleich die erste mit Molly. Fand ich sehr gut. Danach Sam. Danach Louis. Oder Lewis. Oder wie er immer mal den ausspricht. Weiß ich nicht. Ein Detail, das habe ich mal schon, wie ich das erste Mal dieses Spiel durchgespielt habe, habe ich mir das gedacht. Das war halt ein schönes Detail. Für jede Person das Haus im Hintergrund fertig gezeichnet. Oder immer mehr gezeichnet. Also am Ende halt fertig. Wenn man alles hat. Das war der coolste Detail, dass man im Hintergrund das Haus hat. Ich weiß nicht, was ich dazu sagen soll. Außer dass es echt ein cooles Spiel ist, was ich nur empfehlen kann. Ist gerade gratis im PlayStation Store. Und holt es euch. Ich weiß es nicht, wie viel es sonst kostet. Aber es ist gerade kostenlos. Blah. Nein, nicht nochmal. Ja. Ich finde ja cooles Detail, dass das ganz am Anfang das Buch von der Edith vom die Blumen, was er noch hat. Aber nochmal spiele ich nicht. Ich will uns noch ein bisschen umschauen. Ein Boot habe ich nicht gemacht. Tut mir leid. Ja, und ich will mal sagen, das war's. Diesen wunderschönen Display. Mit 2 Parts von diesem Spiel. Ich wünsche euch was. Und tschüss.